I have a brutal commitment to seeing, knowing, and living what I consider to be the big truth of life with a capital T. That has been my highest priority, and to teach it to the best of my ability in the purest possible way that I can.
I'm Elysia Skye, and this is the Brilliance Method podcast. Through mindful, motivational, and often hilarious conversations with thought leaders, entrepreneurs, and executives, you'll discover new ways to create your life on purpose. You often say it's not your fault. Why is this such a critical mindset shift for people trying to break free from frustration and achieve breakthroughs?
One of the biggest benefits that comes from knocking out cloud cover and playing in the sunshine is that struggle, suffering, and pain, negativity, stress, again, whatever you want to call it, disappear. There's a lot of stuff in psychology and even in metaphysical, spiritual kinds of teachings that tell you that you have to take responsibility for everything. And you're creating your own reality. And if it's happening, it's because of you. Again, you made a mistake, you this, you that. It's a disempowering belief, whatever it is, but it's your fault and you got to fix it. And it leads to massive struggle, suffering, and pain. And that's part of phase one.
Yeah.
But the truth is, you aren't creating what happens to you every day. True creative essence is, in the way that we've talked about. And anything that happens is not your fault because you didn't do it. The metaphor that I like to share for this is of the Harry Potter books, because most people have heard of them or they've read them. So the author of the Harry Potter books is a woman named J.K. Rowling. And the hero of the books is a young magical wizard named Harry Potter. So you're reading this book. If Harry Potter in the book says something, does something, thinks something, feels something, makes a mistake, whatever, the only way that can happen is what?
If J.K. Rowling wrote it that way.
Yeah. Harry Potter never makes mistakes. He can't make a mistake. He's a fictional character in a story. He can only do what the author wrote for him to do. And it's the same thing with us. So if you do something and the story is, oh, that was a mistake, or I shouldn't have done that, or the story is I made this decision, I did this, and then this bad thing happened. The mind can say that kind of stuff, but the truth is it's not your fault and you didn't make a mistake and it's not bad and it was part of the plan and it wouldn't be there if it wasn't somehow going to serve you. Now, when I was in my young 30s, I got my start as a speaker working with Tony Robbins, and I became one of his top trainers, and I did his events locally in Denver, and I also trained at his live events. And there was a saying within the Robbins organization back then, this is 40 years ago, everything that happens to me, happens for a reason and a purpose, and it serves me. And there's a lot of stuff in spiritual teachings that say something like that, and it's absolutely true. But in phase one, the mind is ultimately going to go, oh, bullshit. Most of the time, this sucks. I don't like this. I shouldn't have done that. This isn't serving me. This was a disaster. I never should have, I wish I hadn't, But the truth is, we're not doing anything. We're characters in fictional stories as part of this illusory human experience. And everything that happens, just like J.K. Rowling and Harry Potter, is something that True Creative Essence wrote. And the story is unfolding. And it isn't our fault. And we didn't make a mistake. This is the truth. Now, people can hear this and they can say stuff like, oh, God, Robert, that's a dangerous idea, because if people think it's not their fault and they don't have to take any responsibility, they'll just go shit on everybody and they'll treat people like shit and they'll do this and they'll do that and they'll kill people and they'll all this stuff if they don't have to take any responsibility. And I understand that. It just isn't the truth for the same reason. True Creative Essence is in charge, not the person. So if the person hears something, it doesn't matter. TCE is going to do what it's going to do. So it's one more thing that's a big lie, illusion, and story. It's one big more thing that's a cloud cover That's what I call what's in the cloud cover, by the way, lies, illusions, and stories
Yep.
that aren't true, but that block the sun, that block the truth and a knowing of it and an experience of it. And so being able to see that that gets let go of, again, not that you can do it by choice or intent or willpower, but when that gets let go of, it ripples out to create, I'll just call it, so much ease and joy and the loss of the burden and the shoulders, and it's up to me and all that kind of stuff. It's such a blessing, but it's the truth. It's not a technique. It's not, oh, tell yourself that you're really just the creation of an infinite being and you aren't doing any of this, to try to make yourself feel better. It's not a technique. It's not a belief. To me, it's the truth of this human experience. And when that awakens as your natural way of experiencing everything, it ripples out to change everything in huge ways.
I've had friends and clients tell me they find it to be almost depressing, this idea that we don't have free will, right? Quote unquote, control of our life. And my response is always, well, what's your definition of free will? Because mine is, it's your shift in perception. And that's what we have free will over, how we choose to feel about something, see something, look at something. So people
see, no disrespect, but that's not my truth.
What's your definition of free will?
There isn't any.
That's what I'm saying.
You don't even get to choose how you're going to perceive things. That just happens.
Wow. Okay.
Again, going back to Harry Potter, if Harry Potter on page 23 experiences something in this way, and then something happens, and on page 320, he experiences it differently, did he make a choice?
No.
It can appear that he did.
Mm-hmm.
It can appear that there was this journey and this stuff happened in his mind and he did this and he thought this and he felt this and he decided. It can appear that way, but the truth is he has no free will and he doesn't make anything happen. Now, again, free will seems to be one of these sacred cow things about the human experience to a lot of people, including people that believe in spiritual things. And
right.
But even in mainstream teachings, it's a sacred cow.
Yeah.
You can challenge anything, but don't challenge that.
And people have challenged me on it.
I didn't choose to challenge that. I just lived my life. I had these experiences that made it so clear to me. From experience, not thinking. Mm-hmm. I'm not controlling any of this. It's all just happening and I'm aware of it. And even if something changes that I would have said that was a good change, it was crystal clear to me that I didn't do it. Something happened. I woke up one day and I was different. But I didn't do it. I didn't know how to do it. I tried all the stuff I was told. None of it worked. And then later it happened. I was so clear. It was so obvious to me. So there was no intellectual anything about, oh God, I just, shattered that sacred cow. It just happened. And the sun shone in and my way of being changed. And I realized there isn't any free will. But I even have a friend, I don't know if you've ever heard of him. His name is John DeMartini. Mm-hmm. He teaches I'll call it, he wouldn't call it this, but it's kind of a spiritual teaching, but it's based on a lot of science and psychology and other stuff. And he's a brilliant guy. He says from a purely, I'll call it earthbound position, nobody has any free will. Because even if you think that you made a decision in this particular situation, that situation is you made the decision because of something your father said or your mother said or your grandmother said or something you learned from a teacher when you were 3, and it's all just happening. You're not really doing it, and there isn't any free will. And he will say that from a different perspective. But to me, none of it matters. Mm-hmm. And the debates don't matter, and I don't try to convince anybody of this. I don't care. I know that that's the truth, and I know that's what's in the sunshine, and I know that I'm experiencing that, and I know that it's not bad news, it's the best news ever. Yeah. That truth. And that it's one of the biggest gifts and one of the biggest ways that struggle, suffering, and pain disappear. So I don't care, but it's very controversial, and it makes a lot of people angry, and they get very passionate about it. But to me, the truth is the truth. There's a movie that I show in the Ultimate Freedom Experience called City of Angels. Do you know that movie? Mm-hmm. There's this angel that comes down to earth, and there's a scene where he says something like, the truth is the truth, whether you believe it or not. The angel says to somebody, and that's true.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I don't care. I don't judge anybody. I don't criticize anybody. I don't care. I have this experience of the truth. I share it when I'm asked. I share it when somebody comes into my world. If they accept it, great. If they don't, great. If they think I'm a nut, fine. I don't care. I know from experience. Not thinking or being brainwashed or whatever else. I know from deep personal experience over decades that this is the truth. And the proof of it is obvious if you're able to look with clear vision and brutal honesty, which most people in phase one are not able to do.
Yeah, the ego doesn't like that.
But it's a great gift. And it's the truth.
Mm-hmm. I love it.
It's so obvious to me now, but if you had talked to me when I was 30, I wouldn't have said that. Because I believed all that stuff back there.
I think it's awesome. I'm here for it, and it's really a simplified approach, Robert. And it to some listening, it may seem complicated, but it's actually so simple.
That's the great gift of this path, and that's the great gift of what's in the Busting Loose book and what's in Ultimate Freedom, is that someone could make up a story that is complicated, but ultimately where you end up is life becomes very simple.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome.
And it may sound stupid or impossible or too general or whatever, but the truth is, like I said before, in phase 3, with the sun shining, you wake up, you don't know what's going to happen. You go through your day, you have all sorts of experiences and thoughts and feelings and sensations, and there's the ability to enjoy and appreciate all of them. And then you go to sleep and you wake up and the next day, and it's really just like turning the pages of a novel or watching a movie unfold over 2.5 hours, except it's your life and it's a lot longer, and you're not watching it or reading it, you're living it. You are the character, Otherwise, it's the same exact thing. And you said before, you think what people really want is inner peace. And the truth is, all these things that we're kind of debunking and that I'm saying I discovered experientially are not true. Those are the things that cause the most amount of struggle, suffering, and pain. And if you want inner peace, the only way into that is for that stuff to get knocked out and the truth of it to be seen and experienced. Otherwise, again, you're doomed to struggle, suffering, and pain continuing. Lack of inner peace or having it momentary and then losing it, because the only way out is to knock out cloud cover. The only way out, if you don't like that metaphor, is to take a journey that changes you so that you start to see and experience the real truth of life, which again I call the sun shining in, and that sun changes everything that it shines on. Hey. And it is very simple. Living my life right now is very simple. It used to be complicated and exhausting.
Mm-hmm. It's a beautiful metaphor. And, when you say complicated and exhausting, that tends to be the journey of the entrepreneur. That's as sad as that is. And many of my podcast viewers are entrepreneurs. So what is the most common illusion entrepreneurs face in the business game, and how can they bust it to create true freedom?
The biggest illusion, again, is power and control.
Yeah.
It's up to me. I'm just going to make some general statements. People will know what I mean, even if it's a different example in their world. I'm the CEO, and I got to figure out how to be a good leader. Mm-hmm. My competitor is doing this and it's hurting us. I've got to figure out how to counter that. Our marketing isn't working. I got to figure out how to change our marketing so that it'll work. I'm not hiring good people. I got to figure out how to hire better. All these things that are either problems that have to be solved or just what am I going to do? Yeah. How am I going to do this? We're just launching a new product. How should I do it? Especially in today's world where there's all this online stuff that never used to be there when I was younger. All those questions are different now. Yeah. And then the online world evolves. What worked 10 years ago, 5 years ago doesn't work anymore. So it's the fact, again, that business, like life, is a wild animal. And the biggest illusion is I got to find a way to tame it. I got to find a way to figure out all this kind of stuff and continue to grow my business, find a way to get it back on track if it stumbled, all this kind of stuff. And it's exhausting and it's impossible for the human to do it. So that's the biggest illusion. Right now, again, in my life, and I talk about this in Ultimate Freedom, I do a lot of waiting.
Yeah.
Right now, I'm in the middle of launching a new program. I waited, for stuff to appear. I created the program. Then came time, how am I I call marketing and promotion, I call it invitations. Because that's what I think I'm doing. I have something to offer. I'm inviting people in to consider it. That's how I look at it.
I call it that as well. That's
not persuasion or manipulation or whatever. And so then it was, all right, how am I going to invite people into this? And I waited and something appeared and I created something. The first thing I created didn't work as well. Now, all of my life in business, I did this kind of thing. And how am I going to invite people in? And I created something and it worked great out of the blocks. This time it didn't. I was surprised. So then it was, okay, that didn't work. I got to do something else. What am I going to do? And I waited. Something popped. I started moving in a new direction and I got some guidance and some help and some feedback and I waited for some new things to appear in inner space to guide me. I created this new thing that I'll finish up next week and I'll launch it. But it's got the background, the foundation is, it's not up to me. I don't know what the best way to do anything is, Robert, but TCE does. I got my role to play. I meant to have a unique experience of launching this thing and doing things, because that's what this whole experience is about, having unique experiences. Not growing and evolving and expanding, but just having experiences. That's what the whole human thing was designed for. And so I do a lot of waiting for things to pop. And then sometimes things pop and I think, well, that's an interesting idea, but I don't do anything. And then something pops and I wait. And then I notice the Robert character starts to do that thing,
Yeah.
It's just so simple and it's so easy. And I don't feel a burden. I don't try to figure it out intellectually. I don't go to a bunch of experts and ask them, what do you think I should do about this? And then I do what they tell me. I don't think it's up to me, and I'm absolutely certain, lack of better terms, that TCE always knows the best way to do anything. And all I got to do is wait to see what pops, or what I used to call in the book, what I feel motivated to do. But it's beyond that. It's what you actually do is what TCE wrote, like J.K. Rowling, whatever I end up doing, no matter what happened before that. But it's just so simple, and if it doesn't work, then it doesn't work, and I may be surprised. But I don't try to understand it anymore. It's just, okay, well, I did that, it didn't work. Let's see what happens next.
Yep.
Do this, let's see what happens next, just like what happens in a movie. Something happens, and you go, okay. A city blows up, and you go, ugh. And then you go, okay, what's going to happen next in the movie? And you're all excited to find out what's going to happen next. That's the way that I live. So entrepreneurship becomes so much easier too when the truth of all of this, I'm not in charge. I don't know, Robert, what's best. I don't have the ability from the mind to figure out what's best, but who knows what's best? And I now have a history of somehow these words aren't accurate, so take them with a grain of salt. Somehow TCE is going to show me, tell me, guide me, shape me into doing what I'm meant to do. So I wait, and stuff happens. Just like in a movie, again, just like in a novel, just like in a TV show where you're not driving the bus, but stuff happens. So it makes entrepreneurship a lot more easy and a lot less stressful, no stress, and much more enjoyable. But that's the biggest lie. I'm in charge, and I got to figure it out, and it's up to me. And if you're into spiritual stuff, then my energetics matter and my intentions matter. And there are people that are out there that have this belief before I do anything. I go into a meeting, I go on a sales call, I do this, I do that. I have to set my intentions for what I want first. And it's complicated and it's exhausting. And how do you know?
Mhm.
Now, I didn't think that way until all this stuff happened and cloud cover got knocked out. I never would have said, what the hell do I know? How do I know what's best about anything? How could I possibly know? I don't know what the plan for my life is. I don't know what TCE's projects are, that are in motion. How could I ever possibly know what's the best thing to do in any situation? I never thought about that. But it came with the sunshine because that's what's true about life. And then the practical thing of it is, I wait. Something always happens. A problem always gets resolved. An answer to a question always gets answered. A move for what to do with this or that project, it always appears.
We've been saying more and more in my household, it always works out.
Well, and you can say that in phase one and it's bullshit, but it's the truth.
It's the truth. There was a time I remember there was so much going on and money was so dry, so tight, so weird. And I just stuck to it. I was like, it's going to work out. And I just kept doing all the things. And anytime I had a moment of fear or worry, I let it go. I thought it, I felt it, I dismissed it. And it was like 2 days before the end of the month, $40,000 was deposited into my account from a client who paid early. I was like,
yeah.
it worked.
Now, the truth is, it depends how you define work out. I mean, when you say, well, it's not you, but anybody, it's going to work out.
I felt peaceful anyway. I felt peaceful.
We don't know what workout means, then it may not match what your picture is, but it always goes where it was meant to go, is more accurate language.
Yeah.
And it always ultimately benefits you, even if it's in a really surprising way. I'll give you a wild example that just happened.
Okay.
2 months ago, I'm helping my son move. And we had just taken a load of stuff in my car to his new apartment. We're driving back to go get another load, and we're waiting at a stoplight. We're the third car back, waiting for a light to change. And my son and I are just sitting there talking, and then all of a sudden, boom, some guy rear ends me from behind. And I don't know how that happened, because all these cars were stuck. I mean, going back to your exit disappearing, I don't know how that happened, because I don't know how there was a car that had enough space and enough speed to be able to hit my car and do that much damage. So I start going through the motions, of insurance company and getting it repaired. And 2 weeks ago, I took it to the body shop, and they sent an estimate to the insurance company. A lot more damage was done than it appeared on the surface, and the insurance company decided to total the car, that it wasn't worth repairing it. So I find out today they're going to write me a big check for what that car is worth, and they're going to take it, and I'm going to buy a new car, and also I'll end up with a bunch of money in my pocket because of how this all shook out. And now, why did that happen? I don't know. Why did it happen that way? I don't know. At first, it was like, but I love my car, I don't want it to be totaled. I want it to be, fixed. And then it was, wow, this is cool. I get to buy a new car, and I get to have a new experience, and I'm going to have a bunch of money in my bank account that I can do whatever I want with because of the way this thing happened. And it was crazy. How'd the guy even hit me and do that much? It always works out, right? But not usually the way you expect.
Yep.
And again, that seems like a pretty crazy thing. An argument could be made, well, Robert, you've been in phase 3 for more than 10 years. Why would TCE have created something like that for you? I didn't need a new car. I'm happy to have the money, but I don't need it. So why would TCE write that into your story? I don't know. I don't care. It happened. And the net of it is, it's being perceived as cool and fun. And now I get to have the experience of choosing a new car, buying a new car, driving a new car, doing whatever I do with that extra money that I get. And 30 years ago, I would have been pissed off at what I perceived to be TCE for fucking me over that way. Why don't you just leave me alone? Why do you have to fuck with my car? I was loving that car. I was enjoying it. I was sitting at a stoplight. I didn't do anything wrong.
Yeah.
Fuck you, for doing that is what would have appeared. And there would have been anger at source or God, or because that's the way I was back then.
Yeah. Middle finger to the clouds.
Did I anticipate when this happened that it would end up here? No. I thought the car would get repaired. It would be gone for 4 to 6 weeks. I'd get it back. Wasn't my picture, but look what happened. And it's interesting and it's fun. And I'm actually, I'm looking forward to this, picking the next car, and then it'll be fun to go pick it up, but it'll be fun to start driving it. And then I'll have all this money too, that I can choose what I want to do with it. But it's all about the experiences,
Right. Right.
And that's all that matters. And it is a cool experience, not because I somehow, change the narrative to try to turn it into some negative into something positive. That's just the experience.
Mm-hmm.
And it unfolded in a completely surprising way.
Yep. And it's great for people to remember that if they're going through an experience that appears to be, tumultuous or could be stressful, like, stay open. We don't know. It could wind up being magical, like you just said. And a similar thing happened to me, actually. I bought a car for $7,500 cash when I was coming back and forth to Nashville. I used to live in LA. And in 2023, well, and I'd gotten in an accident with another car. So it wound up being my full-time car, which I never intended. And then in 2023, my friend borrowed it. It got stolen at her house. They reimbursed me $18,000. I was like, I paid $7,500 for this car. Like, you have the bill of sale. And they're like, here's $18,000. I'm like, yeah. Okay, right. But I never actually got upset that my car was stolen. I was fascinated. I was fascinated and curious.
And I gotta say, no disrespect, you said you gotta stay open, because you never know. Well, people can't stay open.
Yeah. There's a learning curve, Robert.
It's not a learning curve. It's a question of when you knock out the cloud cover, staying open is what the natural thing is that just happens.
Yeah. No, I'm saying there's a learning curve in changing your language.
I know. Again, I'm not jumping on you. It's just, it's rampant out there. So I like to use those opportunities to zing the truth out again. It's because this is something that used to bother me. So many times people would tell me when I was complaining about something or I was upset about something, and somebody would say, Robert, you just need to blah, blah, blah. And that was true. If I could blah, 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 my life would be better. But I couldn't.
But you couldn't. Yeah.
I would say, how do I do that? And there was either no answer, or they would tell me to do something and it wouldn't work. But then I discovered this is what's happened to me, tried to do these things, tried to surrender, tried to let go, tried to change this, change that, be open, be grateful, it never worked. And then all of a sudden I went on this journey where the only thing I cared about was knocking out cloud cover. I didn't care about my business. I mean, I did stuff, right? But job number one, priority number one, the only thing that mattered was knocking out cloud cover. And I did all the other stuff, but it was all secondary. My focus was, I got to knock out cloud cover. And then I noticed, after I had knocked out a lot of cloud cover, that all these things that I'd been trying to create and failing, not because I failed, but because it wasn't the truth, and those things don't really work, or if they do, it's an illusion created by TC, then I noticed I was experiencing these things, and then a lot of things I never, ever imagined I would be living or experiencing started to happen. And I realized, as I told you, I didn't do it.
Yeah.
It just happened, and I woke up one day and I was different, and this is cool, but I was so obvious I didn't do it. And there was no attempt to try to hijack credit. That's not the way I am, but it also just isn't the truth. I'm just so clear I didn't do anything. Some other force did it,
I love it. I want you to zing me. That's how we get better.
Well, I seem to be built to do that, and no matter what I do, that's what happens. So I'm used to that now.
Oh, fun. It's like a little love laser. Okay. I got a couple more questions for you if we got some time. The shift from phase 2 to ultimate freedom, those teachings feels like this monumental evolution. So what surprised you the most about this new way, as you just said, removing cloud cover, without tools, without books? What does that reveal about our innate ability to transform?
Well, the second question I'll answer first. Theoretically, everybody has the ability to transform, whatever that means. Transformation is only going to happen if it's part of your birth to death plan, is my truth. It's only going to happen if TCE, True Creative Essence, makes it happen, which it does a lot for people who take these journeys. It also happens to people who don't take these journeys. There's all kinds of stories out there about people that aren't on a spiritual path and aren't seeking truth, and something happens and there's a major transformation created by TCE. So in and of itself, it doesn't say anything. Anything can happen in anybody's life. That's part of the way the human experience is. The thing that surprised me the most is that when I began the journey, I knew intellectually what I explained to you before. The cloud cover is everything that blocks you from being able to experience more of the truth of the sun. But I didn't know what was actually in it. I couldn't have given you a list of the biggest lies, illusions, and stories in the cloud cover that caused the most damage, so to speak, the most struggle, suffering, and pain, and the things that I ultimately discovered about the true nature of thoughts and the true nature of emotions and the true nature of sensations, the things we feel in our body that we would call pain or ache or whatever, all these kinds of things. That really surprised me because I didn't see any of this stuff coming. But the deeper I got into it, it was really very unexpected what was actually in the cloud cover, what actually needed to be transformed, and then how amazing and delicious life would be after it. And it was really a shock to me. I have this warm and fuzzy general. When I knock out enough cloud cover and sun is shining in, it's going to be pretty amazing. I had a general. But I didn't know what it was going to look like. I didn't know what it was going to feel like. And I didn't know what specifically I was going to drill through in that cloud cover. And it was quite a shock. If you look at the stuff that's in the Ultimate Freedom Experience, which was created 12 years ago, so I was 55, 56, no idea. Never even the slightest conscious hint or inkling of any of that as being part of the big truth or the cloud cover. And then seeing experientially how life changed as that stuff got knocked out. It was most amazing thing I've ever been through.
Wow.
And the most amazing thing I've ever shared.
I truly hope I get to experience it in person with you guys the next time you do a group. That would be very cool.
Well, I don't know that I ever will again, so don't hold your breath.
I will enjoy my online experience. It has been fabulous. It really has been. Oh my goodness. Okay, so I want to ask you about learning from failures or mistakes, because life appears to throw us curveballs. So, Robert, what is your kryptonite? Even now, there must be times when you slip back, even briefly, although you did already correct me on that once you're in phase 2 or, you phase 3, you don't ever slip back into phase 1. But even earlier, you had mentioned, sometimes you have a thought that I will call a frustrating thought, right? We have those thoughts where, we're briefly upset or triggered by lack or pain that so many people experience. So if and when you have these experiences, how do you recognize it and move through it, remembering to go back to what you know is the truth? And I ask this because I believe it's important for our students and clients to remember that we are human.
Well, here's the thing. The literal answer to your question is I don't do anything. I don't live in that space anymore. Mm-hmm. In your language, I don't ever forget. And some of this gets into stuff that we don't have time to go into. There's a shift that takes place as part of the cloud cover, part of what I call Awakening Ultimate Freedom, Phase 3, where you perceive your thoughts, your feelings, and your sensations in a radically different way. And there's no negative about it. There's no pain about it. There's no struggle or suffering in it. You just experience it. So in simple terms, if I was living my life and what most people would call a negative thought appeared, to me, a thought is it's either a picture that shows up in your mind, like a photograph,
Mm-hmm.
or it's a video that plays in your mind, or it's a voice talking. 99% of the time when we say, I think, I remember, I thought, what we're really experiencing is a picture, a video, or a voice appeared in inner space and communicated something.
Yep.
That's how I experience it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. There was one brief thing when this guy hit me in the car that I told you about. There was a thought that appeared
Yeah.
that said, this guy's an asshole. And now I'm going to have to be really inconvenienced. It's not going to cost me anything because it's his fault and his insurance company will pay. But I'm going to have to be really inconvenienced by this. And I didn't do anything. I was just sitting there, right? So a thought appeared. My perception was, okay, I call where thoughts, feelings, and sensations appear inner space. So the way I experience it is, okay, a voice just appeared in inner space and said, this guy's an asshole. And I'm going to have to be inconvenienced. And I'm aware that a voice appeared in inner space that said that, but I don't care.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't feel bad. I wasn't really judging the guy. I'm just aware that a voice appeared.
Yeah.
That's the truth of it. That's the sunshine of it.
Yeah.
I'm aware that a voice appeared. It could have been a video. It could have been a picture. But no impact. And then the thought disappears, so what? Who cares? On with life. So in phase 3, there isn't any kryptonite. What we call negative thoughts appear a lot less for most people. But even when they appear, there's no pain, there's no struggle, suffering, or negativity. It's just something like what I just said. Up, down, gone. Oh, a voice just appeared and said this. Oh, I just saw a video of this. Oh, I just saw a picture of this. I do an illustration of this with people at live events or even in online programs, and I'll say, think about, and you can do this right now if you want, think about a pet that you have that you love or a person in your life that you love. Think about them. What just happened for you?
I saw a vision in my head and I looked to see if he was laying on the blanket.
What does a vision mean? Did you see a photograph of the person? Did you see a video of what actually appeared?
It was a photograph of my dog, Barnaby Jones, napping on my fuzzy blanket.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's all that happened.
That's it.
A picture of a dog appeared. You didn't put it there. You didn't choose it. It doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
And you are aware of it. Now, in this case, it happened to be a positive thing because you love the dog. But no matter what happens, it's the same thing. You're sitting there and all of a sudden something pops into inner space and you become aware of it. But you experience it very differently when the sun is shining. And it's never a problem. And you never slip back, like I said. You never lose it. There can be times, I call that kind of stuff in phase 3, I call it mind noise. There can be mind noise a lot. There can be mind noise a lot. Most of the time, my inner space now is pretty quiet, but it can get noisy. But my perception of it is, wow, there's a lot of stuff going on in inner space right now, and I'm aware of it, but it doesn't matter. Again, it's like a movie. Mm-hmm. You can see an alien ship go over a city and send a laser beam down and blow up a building. And you're aware of it, and you kind of go, oh, God.
Yeah.
Terrible, but it's up, down, gone, and then it's okay. What's going to happen next in the movie? You don't suffer from it.
Mm-hmm.
You don't wish it didn't happen, or maybe you do, but that would just be a thought. Oh, I wish that, a voice says, oh, I wish that hadn't happened, and it appears. And then, anyway, I could go on and on. We don't have time for it, but it's just the stuff that most people now consider bad, stressful, whatever that appears in inner space tends to appear less. Much less. And when it appears, it just bounces off. It's okay. I'm aware that blah, blah, blah just appeared in inner space. Okay, fine. So what? Who cares? On with life. I don't say that to myself, but that's what happens. Mm-hmm. Which is exactly what happens in a movie.
Yep.
You don't really care. I mean, you're aware of the fact 1,000 people just died, and there's a feeling about it, or the person, somebody gets shot and you like them and they died, I mean, you have feelings and you have thoughts, but it's up, down, gone, and there's no suffering. So it's hard to explain, but it's part of what's in the sunshine, and maybe we can go into that some other day. But so I don't have a kryptonite. I no longer do daily practices or techniques or anything to try to turn this into this in my life. I just live.
Yeah.
And everything is perceived differently. I don't try to change what it is. None of it causes suffering, struggle, or pain. And I just continue to live my life, and new things happen. And which again is what happens in a movie. It's a really accurate metaphor, except our lives are what I call total immersion experiences, because you're not watching a character. You are the character, and you're living and breathing, being this character that you call you, and having all the thoughts and the feelings and the sensations and everything that's happening. You're totally immersed in it instead of watching it on a screen or reading about it in a book.
Yeah.
But the way of experiencing it is ironically exactly the same.
As you talk about it, it reminds me of when I write. When I write, it feels very much that way. I don't know if neutrality is the right word to even describe it, but it's not me. It just is.
Yeah, and it's just happening. But it's not a technique.
Mm-hmm.
It's not trying to turn water into wine. It's not effortful. I don't do it. I didn't make the change, as I said before, that I just want to repeat. I took this journey. These things happened in the early days. I used the tools from the Busting Loose book, and then I stopped using them. But this inner teacher and TCE kept making changes in what was happening outside of me and how I was responding to it. And I would notice one day that I was different. And I didn't make it happen. I didn't know how to make it happen. I tried to make it happen for decades and failed, That's why this thing is just so delicious, because you get these constant gifts and blessings and surprises and benefits that you weren't expecting and that you didn't try to create. And they just happen, and they're a surprise. And then there's another surprise, and then there's another surprise. And then at some point, there's fewer surprises of changes, but then you just get to live your life in this radically different way every day, all day.
Mm-hmm. It's like you almost you get used to it, or you grow to, would you say you grow to expect it? Or I guess you wouldn't be expecting anything. You just are.
I just say to people, it's the most extraordinary thing that ever happened to me and in my entire life at almost age 68. And it's the most amazing thing that I've ever taught, playing the role of speaker, teacher, coach. And I remember, I have vivid memories of the old Robert and how miserable he was and how he used to react to things. And I remember what it used to be like. And then now I see what it's like now. And it's almost, impossible, hard to believe that something like that could even happen. And it isn't anymore. But it's the fact that it all happened and I didn't do any of it, it is part of the enjoyment of it. Getting back to that whole no free will being a gift, not a disaster,
Absolutely.
It's but no one's going to believe any of this from you talking to them. I mean, they may have an intuitive feel, oh, this guy is speaking the truth, but you really have to experience this before any of this can really seem real. And the way that you experience this for most people, you take a journey, and the journey unfolds over time. It's not fast. It's not meant to be fast. That's another point I want to make. I say this in Ultimate Freedom. The average novel is 250 pages. Why is a novel not 5 pages? The average movie is 2.5 hours. Why is the movie not 10 minutes? Answer me as best as you can.
Because we are supposed to go on the journey to experience the parts of it, or it probably wouldn't mean as much. It wouldn't stick.
We wouldn't enjoy it.
We wouldn't enjoy it, yeah. 5
pages is not enough time for you to experience a great story.
Yeah, I was just thinking, you said if, for some people, maybe there's one day they could just take a drink and then they've had this shift. I don't want that. Like, I want the experience.
Well, a lot of people would.
That's true.
And I'll tell you an interesting story about that. There's a woman, I read her book years ago. She was a yoga instructor. She was not a truth seeker. She was not seeking enlightenment or any kind of consciousness transformation, whatever you want to call it. She just was into yoga and body stuff and whatever. And one day she woke up and whammo, this shift took place into what I would call something very similar to phase 3.
Hmm.
And she says that that change was so abrupt and it was so dramatic and it was so intense and it was so confusing, it took her 8 years to adjust to it. Now, could TCE change somebody like that and not have it be 8 years? Yeah. But see, remember, TCE, and this is so important, it may sound like it's just some theoretical or whatever, but it's very important. TCE created the human experience to have experiences that it cannot have in its natural state.
Mm-hmm.
And it wants to experience as much of what's possible being a human as possible. So if somebody is at point A and somebody's going to get to point B, something's going to change in their life, whether it's this journey knocking out cloud cover or it's something else. TCE doesn't want it to happen like that because if that's not fun.
Mm-hmm.
It wants it to unfold over time, slowly, with a lot of different experiences. That's not what our mind, or what I call the mind machine, wants. Our mind machines want this. But TCE wants slow, lots of unique experiences so that when it's done and you're at point B, you can look back, like I said before, and go, wow.
Mm-hmm.
And again, that's what happens in a movie. You sit down, you have all these experiences, and if you love the movie, at the end of the movie, what do you say?
That was awesome.
That was a great movie.
Yeah.
That's the intent from TCE's perspective. Our intent from the mind machine, from phase 1, is I want what I want, and I want it fast, and I want it without a lot of effort, and I want it without a lot of resistance or whatever the hell else. And don't talk to me about this. And if I went to people and I said, welcome to the ultimate freedom experience, I will give you 2 choices. Choice behind door number 1 is you're going to begin a journey and it's going to take 4 years. And at the end of it, you're going to be blah, blah, blah. Or take this drink, drink it, and you'll change instantly. Which would you prefer?
Almost everybody will take the drink.
I would have.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not what TCE wants. And so that almost never happens, even though it could.
Yeah.
And that's why that happened with that yoga instructor. That was a unique experience. Create a whammo change that was unexpected in the moment and then have 8 years to adjust to it, as opposed to take a journey that unfolds over 8 years and at the end you get the whammo, you know? It's really important, and it may seem subtle or unimportant, but it's really, that's why this was so important to me. And to me, it's been such a big part of the teaching, is knowing what this human experience is all about and what TCE is really after. And then knowing that way beyond understanding, you know, and experiencing that that's the truth of it. Then all this stuff that causes so much struggle, suffering, and pain did in me for 40-something years and does for so many people, out the window, gone. And a new way of experiencing everything. And then the door also opens for new things to happen that never happened before, that may have been on your list, you know, of dreams that you had, or they may have been things you never thought about. You know, I'd use as an example, again, I use the example of J.K. Rowling. J.K. Rowling, for you or people that don't know, was a single mom. She was on welfare, really struggling financially in England. The only conscious dream or desire or intention or whatever you want to call it that she had was to make enough money to be able to write and take care of herself and her daughter to a level of comfort, not luxury. There was nothing in her mind about billionaire, theme parks, movies,
Girls Go
best-selling books of all time. It never occurred to her. And yet it happened. And it was, I'm sure, a wild ride for her, you know, which again is what the whole thing is about. It's an amusement park, and all of our experiences are like rides to give us unique experiences. But again, I have to say again, it doesn't work for somebody to listen to this, and let's say they happen to resonate with what I'm saying and what you're saying, and they agree with it and say, okay, next time something bad happens to me, I'm going to say, no, this isn't bad. This is just a ride in an amusement park. And And this isn't really bad. This is really good. And this is what TCE wants. And that's going to work as a technique.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't. Or if it does, it would be a temporary blippy something that wouldn't last. What has to happen is something has to reach deep inside of you, so to speak, and make a change, which I call knocking out cloud cover, replacing lies, illusions, and stories with a direct knowing and experience of the truth, big capital T, truth, that changes you. You can't do it from here. You can't do it from willpower. You can't do it from thinking. You can't do it from a technique. The TCE can do it, and it does, but it does through journeys.
Mm. Well, and for people who are inspired by this and they want to go deeper and have this longer conversation, there will be a link in the podcast description for your online ultimate freedom experience and your website. I'm excited to finish. I'm more motivated than ever now that we have had this conversation. And I do want you to come back on the show to continue going deeper into some of these things. And it's so helpful. And it's also incredibly generous, Robert. You know, and one of the things you say early on in the teaching of the ultimate freedom experience is once you, I'm going to paraphrase, of course, so forgive me, but you know, once you have this experience, you don't need to keep buying self-help books and take seminars and, you know, all that stuff. So it's because you could, not that you would, but you could continue selling and doing all the phase one stuff, or even the you know, what you were doing with Busting Loose. And it is a generous thing to say, here's the truth with a capital T. You're invited.
Yeah. I mean, again, 99.9% of the time, people that embrace the busting loose stuff, and definitely people that embrace ultimate freedom stuff, they stop consuming self-help stuff. So, lack of better terms, there's a savings for most people of a huge amount of time, money, and energy that they used to spend, and all of the whatever seeking, being frustrated, you know, trying to find a way to fix their life, all this stuff. I mean, it consumes our lives a lot more than many people realize, and some people know how much it is. But seeking stops.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to find a way to change, fix, and improve your life stops. And I don't know what you're like or what the people watching are, but in my case, you know, I was fortunate enough that most of my career before this and during this, I made a lot of money. So I had a lot of money to spend on books and courses and going to workshops and coaching and psychic readings and all these kinds of things, you know. So I consumed an enormous amount of this, and it took up a lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of energy. It ultimately was a dead end, as I told you. But the savings of that time, money, and energy is another ripple and benefit of this, because for most people on this kind of a path, that's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot of time, it's a lot of money, it's a lot of energy, and it's a lot of struggle, suffering, and pain along the way with trying to change things and being frustrated when it doesn't change or the change doesn't last.
You know, I've been a seeker my entire life of who am I? What's the point? To be happy or to be peaceful. I am looking forward to experiencing myself as I truly am without that, because I don't know if I know her.
Well, and I'm glad you said that, because that's another benefit. You know, if you had talked to me when I was 30, I don't know what I would have said if you actually asked me, but I probably believed that I knew myself.
Mm-hmm.
I knew who this Robert guy was. I knew what I wanted. I knew what would make me happy. All these kinds of things, but ultimately none of it was accurate. And that's another benefit that comes with the sunshine when you knock out cloud cover, is that you really do get a sense of who you really are deep down as a unique character, having this unique experience on a unique journey, and you get very clear. I'm still finding out more about it, by the way. It's not like I'm a finished product with this, but I got much more clear on who I really am, what I really want, how I really want to live. Not from here, or because some book or course or something said, you know, this is the way you should live. And then I watched as TCE changed my life to align with that.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a term now, I call it lifestyle friendliness, and everything gets filtered through that in my life and in my career, and it has for probably 15 years. I don't do stuff that doesn't, lack of better terms, that don't take these words too literally. I don't do anything that doesn't align with who I really am and what would really make me happy and what I would really enjoy and what I really want to do, as I now experience more clearly. Even if I could make a lot of money, even if I could this or that, I just don't do it.
Yeah.
I'm clear on who this Robert guy really is and what really makes him happy and the lifestyle that really is enjoyable to who this character really is. And then I am fiercely committed to honoring and respecting that. And there are lots of temptations.
Yeah.
I went to China, as I told you, for 9 years, and I loved it. Every time I went, it was an incredible adventure, because it's a radically different culture and it's a different geography, and there's so many, and it has such a long history.
Yeah.
Way beyond the United States, and I loved it. And I loved the speaking, and like I told you, for whatever reason, the Chinese people just eat up what it is that I teach.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was received very well, and that was fun, and people's lives were changing. It was this amazing thing. And then after 9 years, I started to enjoy it less. It became kind of what I call mechanical. I was doing the same thing over and over, and there weren't a lot of new adventures, and it was kind of a repeat of the same stuff that I'd already experienced a lot. And so I decided to stop going. There were some other things that happened with my partner and I, but it's my Chinese partner that was my host. But I've always been that way. In my early days, I would have a teaching and I would do a live event once and I would record it and I'd turn it into a course and I would never do it again because I get bored after a while if I'm doing the same thing over and over and over.
Mm-hmm. Resonate with that.
Ultimate freedom was an exception to that. I probably taught that 300 times over 12 years. And then I lost the interest to do it live anymore, which is why I said, don't hold your breath before.
Yeah, I didn't know. I missed the boat.
And that doesn't, that could change tomorrow. I have this new thing that I just released, and I don't know if I'll ever do it live or not. It goes back to what I said before. I don't know what's going to happen in my story, as I call it.
Yeah.
I want it to have impact and change the world and change people's lives. And I want to have fun doing it. And that's all I care about. That's all I'm consciously aware of. And where it goes, it goes. And I'm very curious to see, but I don't know.
Cool. Well, we'll be paying attention.
I don't have an ego need to be on stage or, any of that kind of stuff. So it doesn't matter. But I enjoyed that when I did it. And we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Getting back to what you said before about entrepreneurship, I don't know. I don't care. My ride has always been amazing, and I trust it'll continue to be whatever TCE's plan is that I get to see unfold a little more every day. Mm-hmm. Like a novel or a movie, that's what happens. You don't know what's going to happen, and then you watch more, you read more, you turn the pages, you find out more and more, and then a particular story comes to a conclusion, and then a new one starts. That's what my life is like.
Yep. I'm producing I'm in development right now for a sci-fi based series. It's a spiritual sci-fi series. So I might ping you if you want to come and have a small acting part on it to see what that is like on the other side. To truly be a character in a story, because it is fun, man.
If my life had gone down a different path, I think I would have been in heaven being a movie director.
I think so too.
But my life went down a different path,
That's fun. Well, on that note, so I'm in the Producers Guild, and I've been to so many screenings for specifically for different Star Wars movies. Whenever there was a new Star Wars movie, I would always go to the screening for it, for the industry screening, the ones that have come out in the last 10, 15 years anyway. And I see your Yoda, which we talked about, I think, even before we started recording. J.J. Abrams, there's that guy. J.J. Abrams described the Force. I saw him do this live. I don't know if it's published, but he described the Force as tapping into your inner light, almost as a manifestation tool, even though we've talked about manifestation today. But that Force, that when you bring the highest and best energy to any situation, you will win. It goes your way. And I just love that. And I mention this Well, one, because you have so many fun things in the background. I think I see Neo back there from The Matrix. And in some of your other videos, you've got the Thanos glove, some Marvel stuff. So it might seem obvious, but what draws you to sci-fi, and how can spiritual seekers embrace science fiction either as a source of inspiration or a treasure hunt for clues of truth?
Well, see, again, no disrespect. In the question is give somebody a to-do list.
Uh-huh.
I don't work with a to-do list and I don't give people to-do lists. I don't see value in them anymore.
Okay, then let me rephrase.
But no, I understand. I just want to make that point. The answer to your question is, for whatever reason, I love science fiction and I always have, and I just enjoy it as an individual, spirituality and teaching aside. I've also discovered that True Creative Essence has a habit of hiding big truths in plain sight in what we call science fiction and fantasy, books and movies and TV shows. And so when I'm actively teaching something, what goes on in my mind is, here's a point that I want to make. What's the best way to do it? And sometimes it's bullet points, on a slide, and sometimes it's a picture, and sometimes it's me saying something like this, and sometimes it's a clip from a movie or a TV show. And that's just happened a lot. I'll be sitting at home, I'll be watching a science fiction show or movie, and all of a sudden what'll pop is, oh my God, that would be perfect to illustrate this point in this particular event. And then I get the clip and I put it into the event or the course. And so it's just been part of my life, and it's made things fun, and it's been interesting. But even if I wasn't a teacher and I wasn't trying to help people and I didn't have these things to share, I would still just love science fiction because for whatever reason, everybody doesn't, but I just love it.
Yeah.
But do people have to consciously try to pursue some way to extract value from it? No. If it's meant to happen, it will, because that's what happened with me.
Oh yeah, I'm so motivated by so many of that stuff. And oftentimes when I throw events or retreats, I'll do a theme, and I might do like a sci-fi theme, or I always do themes from different movies and stuff because it is so fun. And maybe it's something I learned from, English class or whatnot, just to use literature to illustrate your point and demonstrate themes. And it's something I've really enjoyed in your work and something I do in mine as well. So
yeah, it's very powerful. Nothing works for everybody.
Right.
But in general, there's a pattern that I'm just going to language it. When I find just the right clip to illustrate a particular point, it really has impact on people. And a lot of times, like when I do the Ultimate Freedom Experience, we have a whole day of stuff, and then I have them watch a movie that night. And the movie kind of locks it down, puts it in a different context, but they're not learning anything, it's not teaching and it's not me on a stage. But by watching the movie, it's supportive. And then on the third day, they go through a day and they watch a movie that night. And then on the final day, there's a particular movie that really brings all of it together, but in a purely, unconscious, experiential way. And it's very powerful. And it's something, again, that I'm very grateful for, because I don't compare myself to these people, but I'm just going to use this as an example. When a lot of what are called ancient masters were teaching, or when Buddha was teaching, or when Jesus was teaching, I'm aware of a lot of ancient Chinese masters because of going there. They didn't have the movie metaphor.
You're right.
They didn't have movies that they could show. They didn't have photographs that they could show. So I have a lot of tools at my disposal to support communicating with these things and helping people that you don't even have to go that far back. I mean, even 50 years ago or whatever, this wasn't possible. And it's a key part of my work, that just wouldn't have been possible. When I was a kid, you usually didn't see very much big truth hidden in TV shows and movies and stuff. It just didn't happen very much. And it's really fun.
It is.
Which is a high priority for me in my life right now, as I mentioned.
Yeah. For a lot of people that are on a spiritual path, it can be a little bit harder to relate to people. Certain things can be daunting. And, I believe we don't know everything. Even if we hope we do, as I said before, I found the truth. No, now I found the truth, right? And maybe different in your case, but you know, we can both agree we're not better than anybody else, no matter what we've studied or practiced. And even things like dating and meeting new friends can be difficult. So, what's been your experience, or what can you recommend that have been the most grounding for you in relating to others?
Well, there are layers to the answer to this. The first layer is I have always felt like an alien, a stranger in a strange land, even when I was a kid.
Mhm.
So I have always in this life had difficulty in relationships and interacting with people because everywhere I looked, I just was really different. And then when I was younger, I had difficulty with that, and there was self-judgment with that, like maybe there was something wrong with me, and it was a struggle. Then as I began this journey and whatever, it became more challenging because as my view changed to, I'm just going to use the word embrace, it's not the right word. These things we've been talking about, then I became even more different, in terms of the way I live every day. And so it created new challenges. I have recognized that I am a person who needs to spend a lot of time alone.
Mhm.
And I need to go in waves. This is one of the things I discovered in the cloud cover. Be social for a little while and then withdraw and be quiet. And then be social for a little while and then withdraw. It was difficult to be that way. And when I was married, it really bothered my wife because she thought I was rejecting her, and it had anything to do with her. It's just the way I was.
Mhm.
So again, I don't use any techniques here. I can't give you any recommendations. The way that I have dealt with this, not as a technique, this is just, again, what appeared. I don't talk about any of this stuff unless somebody asks me.
Hmm.
I have 2 kids. My daughter's 24 and my son is 21. My son doesn't know anything about what I teach and has never read any of my books. My daughter didn't know anything about what I teach, but with this new project that I'm just launching now, she's helping me with social media, so she's starting to discover some of it, but she never asked me, and I never talked to them about it. My wife knew about this, and she embraced the stuff that I teach, my ex-wife, for a while, and then she rejected it because she was involved with an energy healing teaching, and they conflicted, and she chose to embrace that worldview instead of mine.
Mhm.
So I have learned to draw very tight boundaries. I don't spend time with people that I don't find interesting. And I don't spend time with a lot of people that the way they are, I don't have any judgment or criticism of it. But if it isn't enjoyable to me, then I don't spend time with them. I won't continue to have them as friends. I won't invite them to do things. I won't go to things if they invite me. Because again, I'm fiercely protective to enjoying my life and honoring who I really am, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Um, And I've, in the sunshine, was honoring and respecting and appreciating that the difference, that me being so different and being so unique and having this unique thing is a gift and a blessing, not as a technique. Oh, Robert, just tell yourself, that your uniqueness is a gift and a blessing. And what's there is I honor this guy and I don't judge him anymore. But I spend a lot of time alone because I'm happier that way, lack of better terms.
Yeah.
And I only spend time with people that I really enjoy. And again, if you were following me around with a video camera, you would never see me talk about any of this with anybody in my normal life. Because what has evolved is no one's really going to listen and no one's really going to care unless they ask. And even if they ask, it still may not be their path or, what they would be interested in. Do we have a few minutes? I can tell you this little game that I play.
Yeah, we got time. Okay.
When I was traveling a lot and speaking in the U.S. and internationally, I would take taxi rides to the airport, or now it's Ubers, but it started out with taxis. And sometimes the taxi driver would say, "So, what do you do for a living?" And I started to play this game, right? So I would say, "I'm a writer and a speaker," and then I would stop. And most of the time they go, "Oh, okay." And that's it. The conversation stopped. Sometimes they would say, "Oh, yeah, well, what do you speak and teach about?" And then I would tell them about the sun and the clouds, and that I help people to knock out cloud cover and limitations and restrictions to help them get what they want. And then I stop. Or sometimes they'd say, well, what do you speak or teach about? And I would say, well, you'd probably call it personal development or spiritual development. And then I stop. And then it almost always stops because they don't care. It's not their path. They're not interested. Their journey is something different. And in my language, they're a phase 1 character.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't care. Occasionally you can tell that they're really interested, but then we're at the airport.
Right.
And then they'll say, well, so how can I find out more about you? What's the name of a book or what's your website or whatever? And 99.9% of the time, they never do anything with it. In the old Robert, I would have started, what do you do? What do you teach about? And I would have gone into this big thing, But I just have realized, again, 90-something% of the people, again, no judgment or criticism. This is just phase 2 and phase 3 are not better than phase 1 or phase 2. It's not more advanced. It's not more enlightened. It's not better. It's just different. Yeah. It's a different ride in the amusement park. I don't consider myself to be better or higher or smarter or more evolved or enlightened or whatever. My journey was different, and living this way is different. I've just learned that in the way TCE creates my life. If somebody doesn't ask me, they're not going to care or listen. And even if they ask me, they may still not. So I won't have a real conversation about any of this unless it really were to go deep. Like, I do strength training twice a week, and I have a trainer that I work with, and we have like 25 minutes and half of it I'm doing something, so I can't really talk.
Yeah.
But I've been working with her for 3 months, and she asks me about this stuff. And she asks me at the end of the training session. And so it's an ongoing conversation, and slowly but surely she's learning more because she's asking me. But if she didn't, I would never talk about it. Mm-hmm. But the other thing about this is, because of all of the experiences of sunshine we've talked about, I'm fascinated to hear the details of everybody's journey and story.
Yeah.
I don't care who they are. I don't care what they do. I'm fascinated. So I usually interrogate people, because I'll ask them a million questions because I'm really curious about their unique story and journey and what their life's been like. And so most times when I interact with people, I'm asking them an awful lot of questions, and I'm finding out a lot about them. And I'm not sharing much about myself, and they're not asking me much about myself. Hmm. But I could say that it is difficult for the Robert character not to relate to, but to enjoy being around people that don't live this way.
Yeah.
Except in the way that I just said, that I can ask people a lot of questions, and I'm very curious, and I want to know about their lives and that kind of stuff. But there's an awful lot of times that I'll interact with some people and I'll say, well, did I really enjoy that? Was that nourishing? Was that interesting to me? Whatever, was it worth my time? However you want to language it. And a lot of times the answer is no, because of the unique way that I live and breathe and perceive things. But do I offer any techniques for how to overcome that or be able to relate with people? No, I'm not qualified to do that.
Yeah.
And this is TCE's job, right? If TCE wants somebody to work through this in their own unique way and in their own unique situation, TCE will create a way for it to happen for them that aligns with their unique mission and purpose, journey and circumstances. Again, and I almost never give advice, because part of all of this is, like I said before, what the hell do I know? What do I know about what would be best for one of my kids if they have a decision point in their life? How do I know what TCE has planned or what their future is or what would be the best thing for them? I mean, you said before about being humble. It's not a decision for me or a technique. I just am, because what do I know? Mm-hmm. So I don't ever give anybody any advice unless they ask me. And if they ask me, I usually say, I don't know what the best thing for you to do in this situation would be. If it were me, I would do this. Mm-hmm. I don't know if that's valuable to you or not, because that's the truth. That's the only advice I can ever give anybody.
And that's a great way to give advice.
If I was in this situation, this is what I do. Is that the best thing for you? I don't know. I'll share it with you where it goes. It goes. I don't care. But again, my kids almost never ask me for advice. But if they do, that's how I preface it. My friends rarely ask me for advice. I would say, in the rare instance that one of my kids asks me for advice and I say, well, if it was me, this is what I would do, they don't do what I would do.
Yeah.
And I don't care, because again, what do I know? And again, just, to make a little funny comment here, who's their real parent? Is it me?
Mm,
True Creative Essence is their real parent.
yeah.
I mean, I may have my role to play, and some might say may have impact, may not, if that's the way TCE wants it, but I'm not in charge. I'm not in control of shaping them as people or determining what happens, and it has never bothered me that neither of my kids have ever asked me, what do you do? Can I read one of your books? My daughter actually did 2 years ago. She asked me if I'd send her copies of the books I thought she might enjoy, and I sent them to her 2 years ago. She hasn't read them. Not her path.
Yeah.
She's discovering some of it, like I said, because she's helping me with this new project. It still isn't really her path. I mean, she's doing a good job, and maybe it'll change, maybe it won't, but it's not really her path. Again, this is just one ride in the amusement park, and most people don't ride it, and I don't care. So anyway, the most important thing is I used to really struggle with being different, and I judged myself negatively. It wasn't just that I'm different, it was that something was wrong with me. And that uniqueness was bad, and it caused problems, and stuff like that. And then that kind of self-judgment disappeared, and it turned into, in the sunshine of great honoring and respect and appreciation for the uniqueness of this character, and enjoying it and not caring if somebody else didn't see it that way.
Yeah, and that's great.
If you go to Amazon and you look at the reviews of Busting Loose from the Money Game, you'll probably be shocked by how polar they are.
Yeah.
Positive and negative, and some of them are extreme on both sides. That kind of stuff, when I was younger, used to really bother me. Now, I don't care. I am who I am. I think this Robert character is pretty cool, and I honor and appreciate the uniqueness and differences and these things that I share, and it doesn't matter anymore. Not as a technique, or something. It just,
Right. No,
it just doesn't matter. It used to.
Well, and we become disinterested in the stuff that now doesn't matter to us, and I've found even in my own friendships, certain friendships have grown apart a bit because I'm just not interested in gossiping or drama or talking about war or what's on the news. Like, I just don't care. Not that I don't care about the world. I want there to be peace and love, but like, I am not interested in investing my precious time and energy and words into any of that. Like, it doesn't feel fun, and I love these people, and some will stay in my life and some will not, so
I understand. When I was actively teaching and I was doing a lot of live events, people would often ask me, so Robert, when you're not teaching or you're not working, like, what are your hobbies? I mean, what do you really enjoy doing?
Yeah.
And my mind would always freeze. I didn't have an answer to that. And then one day, after the Ultimate Freedom teachings clarified and came through, and I was sharing that, I realized what I love most in life is stories.
Yeah.
Stories that people share about their lives, as I said before. That's my favorite thing. And then stories in movies and stories in TV shows and stories in novels. That's what I enjoy most. And so that's what I choose to spend my time on most. And so I wanted, the way I'm built, I want to interact with people on a very deep level. I want to know what they're thinking and what they're feeling and what's happening. Not just I did this and this and this, but a deep connection. Really getting to know them. And a lot of people, as you know, aren't comfortable going there.
Yeah.
But that's what I want. That's what I enjoy. That's the way I am. So if I start interacting with somebody who doesn't relate that way, that's fine. But then I won't. because that's what I want. And I realize now, again, I didn't realize until a lot of sunshine was coming in that that's what I enjoy most. I couldn't have said that to you, I don't know, 15 years ago. I wouldn't have been able to answer the question, as I said. Now that's crystal clear, and that is what I spend most of my time doing.
Yeah.
It's somehow getting stories from other people about their lives, whether it's strangers or it's people that are involved in my work, or it's my kids or their friends or whatever. And very few people complain about this anymore, but I mean, I am an interrogator.
I I do it for a living. I mean, you're right here with me, so I totally get it. It's so fun.
Yeah, my son will introduce me to, I moved back to Denver in January. I'd been living in Virginia for 21 years, and my son moved here. So so there would be times where he would say, "You want to go out to dinner, with my friend so and so and me, and or do you want to, whatever." And we'd be at dinner, and I'd be firing nonstop questions to them the whole time, and I'd probably come away from that dinner knowing more about them than my son did.
That's fun.
But that's what I love.
Yeah.
And if somebody is uncomfortable with that, then I have a decision to make. I don't care. I don't judge them, but I have a decision to make. I'll give you an example, and my son knows this. His girlfriend that he's with right now is not like that. She doesn't talk to me very much. If I ask her a question, I'll get a very short answer. It won't be real personal. It won't be the kind of deep story thing that I'm interested in. And so I don't choose to spend as much time with the three of us because of that.
Mm-hmm.
I'll spend time with the three of us sometimes, or watching a football game or something, but I'll spend more time with my son, just he and I, because he interacts that way.
Yeah.
So that's the way I live as a result of this. And as a result of the sunshine, I honor who I am. I'm fiercely protective of it. And I don't do things, or I excuse myself from situations that are not, I just like the word nourishing
Mm-hmm.
to who I really am, which comes from honoring my differences instead of feeling uncomfortable about them. I'll tell you one last story if you have time. There's a girl that I had a major crush on for years, and we went to different schools, and she was dating, or I was dating, and she wasn't, and nothing ever happened, but I just always had this thing about her. And then we ended up overlapping at the same college. And she was in a relationship, so once again, there was no opportunity for us to really explore things, except we had a couple of experiences where we had a real deep kind of a connection, and then parted ways. And then maybe 15 years later, I had this desire to look up people from my past after I had changed, through all these kinds of things. And this woman ended up saying to me, "You know what my perception of you, Robert, was when we were in college? My perception of you was that you were somebody who was very different, and you were very uncomfortable with being very different, and you were trying to come to terms with that." And that was totally dead right on. But I can tell you, before she said that, I never had a conscious thought about that in my life ever. But I knew she was speaking the truth. But I had no clue that that's what was going on back then. I don't know how she saw that so clearly, but she did. And that's a good description about the way I used to be.
Yeah.
Very different, had problems with dealing with that, and trying to come to terms with it, which ultimately, when the sun started to shine in, I, quote unquote, came to terms with it, and it became a plus, a great benefit, and all these other kinds of things changed. But it's a common problem. The deeper you go into the truth, the more difficult it is to interact with other people. And I've had all kinds of questions from people that have been through ultimate freedom that will come to me and they'll say, "Geez, I don't know what to do with my husband," or "I don't know what to do with my mother," or "I don't know what to do with any of these people now that, I've changed because of this." Or they think I'm crazy, or
Right.
they think that you're a cult leader, whatever it is. And it creates challenges. But see, again, like I said before, if that happens, what's the opportunity based on what I've said here? What would you say?
It's happened. So I just continue on my path, and I don't treat them any different. And if it's no longer a match, it's no longer a match. I've I've experienced it quite a bit. It's weeding the garden, and sometimes it's sad, and sometimes there's a grief period, depending on the relationship. But I
For
trust.
me, it's like I said before. I mean, I don't think of it this way. I'm just saying it this way to explain it to you. I wait for TCE, True Creative Essence, to take care of it.
Yeah, it does.
So I may have an awareness like I did with my son's girlfriend. That wasn't very fun,
Mm-hmm.
that dinner tonight. But I don't think, okay, now I got to make a decision. What am I going to do? I mean, I notice, okay, that wasn't so.
Right.
And then I wait to see what happens.
That's true. When in reflection, when I've been in that situation, I don't have like some big breakup with friends. There's not like a thing that has to be done.
Well, sometimes there is, but what happens to me is I wait. This happened to me with a guy that I was friends with when I lived in Denver 35 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And we reconnected, and I was not enjoying it at all. And so I didn't say, I'm not going to be friends with you anymore. I just didn't call him again, and he didn't call me.
Right.
So there was a point where action was taken, but I didn't plan it. I just,
Right.
again, I spent time with him. It wasn't enjoyable. I was aware of the fact that it wasn't enjoyable. And then, like you said, I was living my life. And I would language it as waiting to see what TCE does about this. And what ended up happening is I just didn't connect with him, and he didn't reach out again. If he had, I probably would have been pretty honest with him
Mm-hmm.
in a polite way. I'm never critical or judgmental in what I say because I'm not critical or judgmental in how I see it.
Yeah.
I just would have said, I'm 67 years old, and I've learned to draw certain boundaries in certain situations, and this just wasn't working for me. I'm looking for a different kind of an interaction.
Yeah. And I think
But
that's kind.
I wait. I always. I just live my life. I have the experiences, and sometimes what pops is taking an action, and then I do.
Yeah.
I did actually say to my son, I'm not enjoying spending time with her and with the three of us as much. And so my request to you going forward is let's do stuff just you and me more, not include her with everything. And he was okay with that. He understood it. He knows how I am.
Yeah.
I might not have done that, but that's what happened.
I've noticed in my lifetime that when we feel disconnected from someone, they're usually feeling it too. Whether they're as aware of it as us or not might be different, or they're willing to wait and or do something about it might be different, but both people usually feel it.
Yeah, and there's a term out there in entrepreneurship these days. They call it something like disruptors.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Part of the uniqueness of this Robert character is that I'm built to be a disruptor.
Yeah.
And anywhere I go, in some way, shape, or form, it tends to challenge the status quo of whatever's going on, even if I don't talk much. Even like I said, if I don't talk about this stuff or try to convince anybody or whatever, I just have realized I tend to be a disrupting influence, And that was once a problem, and now it isn't. If it happens, it happens, and I trust that that's part of TCE's plan, and it's going to go where it goes, and it's never my conscious intention, but I've just noticed from observing the Robert character for 67 years that happens a lot. I go places and stuff gets stirred up, I mean, it's even if I don't mean to, or I'm just saying this is what I did last week, and it stirs somebody up, and it definitely does when I teach, and that's by design. Because again, to knock out cloud cover, you have to be shaken up. You have to be disrupted.
Yeah.
And to me, you have to do that in a pretty aggressive way to support the start of knocking out cloud cover. And so that's part of my style when I teach. I know that when I have their attention, I have to shake them up, and I have to open the door, and I have to facilitate the transformation that's possible playing the role that I do. But that I've just also noticed it happens in my private life. And so that's the way it is. And if it happens, it happens. And if somebody doesn't like me, or they don't want to spend time with me, or they don't really see me who I really am, okay.
Mm-hmm. I think for a lot of people, they do get there with age, but it is a testament to the work that you've done, and also you saying that you know yourself now, that maybe you didn't know yourself in your 30s? Because most people want people to like them. Most people are people pleasers, or, they fawn, or they don't want anyone to think that they're actively disrupting. Not that you would say that you are, but it's a part of your design, so to speak.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the natural, automatic, 24/7 response to these kinds of things is radically different now than it used to be, because all that kind of stuff always happened, but it always caused some form of struggle, suffering, and pain when I was younger, when I was in phase one. And a lot of it I didn't know. Like I said, I wasn't clear on who this Robert guy was and what would really make him happy and how he wanted to live. And most of the stuff I thought would make me happy and that I had goals for it didn't, which was all part of my journey.
Well, and I didn't even know we were going to go this deep on this part of the conversation, but now that we're talking about it, this has been something that has been a big part of my life. And in the work that I've done to heal it, release it, all that shit we talked about earlier, I remember the day that my mother died, we got in a fight. And I'm such a lovey-dovey person. And I'm also, I tend to be very introverted. A lot of people think I'm extroverted because I host a show and this or that. But I like to go deep with people one-on-one. And I'm a hugger. And my mother never left the house without me saying I love you and giving her a hug. And that night we got in a big fight. She told us that we were going to move to Oregon. And I didn't want to move. And I was 12 years old and had all my reasons. And she left the house, and I didn't hug her and I didn't say I love you because I was so angry that she was going to uproot our life and move us to Oregon. And she was hit by a car that night and killed. And I never got to hug her or say I love you ever again. And I've done quite a bit of work on it. But what comes up still every once in a while when I disappoint someone, which happens a lot, I'm human, but when I disappoint someone or upset someone, and it's gotten so much better over the years, but I tend to have this gut reaction that is equivalent to death. Like, this person is now going to die, or I have killed this relationship or something. And since becoming aware of it, I now don't go down the rabbit hole of it like I used to. But man, like twice a year, it flares up so big where I've pissed someone off and I think life is over. And rationally, doesn't make any sense, but it still just shows up and it sucks.
I understand. I have my version of that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And that prompts me to want to say something. As part of when I play the role of teacher, coach, I'm being interviewed like this because I have expertise in something. I'm very aggressive on pointing out that the typical stuff that's out there is not true and doesn't work reliably or consistently. Because that's the truth, and that's what I discovered on my journey. But that doesn't mean that it doesn't have value, and that doesn't mean that people shouldn't do it. It all has value. Phase one self-help teachings that are promoting something that isn't the big truth of life, or it says, this is the way life works, and if you want something, this is what you can do. It's all very useful and supportive to the people that embrace it, because they wouldn't have embraced it, just like Harry Potter and J.K. Rowling, if TCE did not put that in their story.
Yeah.
It's all useful and supportive. Ultimately, it's all beautiful. The people that offer it are all amazing. Is it true? No. Is that the way the world works? No. If you do that, will it really give you what the promise is? No, I'd say that. I'm just saying this because, and I know you didn't mean it that way, but it just reminded me of this. You said, the shit we've been talking about. It isn't shit. It's not true. It's not accurate. It isn't an accurate description of the way reality really works, but it doesn't matter. And again, my stuff is not more valuable or higher or more evolved or anything. It's just different. And all of it, if it comes into your life, it came into your life because TCE wrote it into your story for it to come into your life, and somehow it's contributing to your birth to death journey. Even if you later abandon it and realize it's not true and reject it, or if you do it for the rest of your life and it just wasn't true and it never really worked. But I don't have any judgment or criticism of any of it.
Yeah.
But I am very vocal about the fact that is it a true description of how reality works, and does it work the way that it's promised? The answer is no. And there's no judgment of the people. There's no judgment of the teaching itself.
Mm-hmm.
It's all fine. And again, I don't argue with anybody. I don't try to convince anybody. If somebody tells me you're full of shit, Robert, and the real truth is what this guy said or this woman said or whatever else it is, I won't respond to that. I don't care.
Mm-hmm.
I have a brutal commitment to seeing, knowing, and living what I consider to be the big truth of life with a capital T. That has been my highest priority, and to teach it to the best of my ability in the purest possible way that I can.
Yeah.
That's just the way my story has unfolded, but it's all beautiful. It's like I said before, TCE honors, appreciates, respects, and values everything that happens in what I call phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3 equally. And if you doubt that, 99%, 98% or whatever of the people on the planet are having phase 1 experiences. So you'd have to say, well, TCE must be awfully stupid. If that's what it's enjoying most people doing, if there was something wrong with it, you know what I mean?
It wants to have the experience.
Yeah. It's just like, you go to Disney World and there's certain rides that you go on and certain rides that you don't, and certain rides that you go on and you like, and certain rides you go on and you don't like. But some people like the rides that you don't, and some people don't like the rides that you do, and it just doesn't matter.
Right.
And TCE uses all of it as raw material to craft birth to death stories of unique characters in unique situations having unique experiences, because that's ultimately what TCE, True Creative Essence, wants, and why I created this experience. And in my blood, you could say,
Right.
capital K, know that that's true and honor, respect, and appreciate it, even if I don't agree with it, so to speak, even if I don't think it's accurate or truthful. So I just wanted to say that.
Yeah, that's helpful. It's helpful for everybody to hear, that, because again, I've seen people go into like a depression of, I don't have free will, nothing I did ever mattered. It's like, but it has been helpful. And earlier I called all that a gateway drug to whatever you find is your truth. And it is nice to hear the way that you said that. So
when I do live events, I'm usually on stage a lot, and then people want to talk to me afterwards, and people always come up to me and say, aren't you tired? Isn't it hard for you, to do a 6-day event or whatever else it is? And I say to them, no, I love this.
yeah, it feeds you.
It doesn't drain me, it energizes me.
Mm-hmm. I don't know if you consider yourself introverted or if any of that is even true anymore, because they talk about left brain, right brain. That's now no longer a thing. So then there was like introverted, extroverted, and like, how can you be both? I don't know. But I do tend to resonate more with being more introverted. And I find that even though we need alone time and we don't always people, when we are doing what we truly love, it's just like this continuous fountain of energy. And it's just so great. Like sometimes my voice will go eventually, but I could talk about this shit for days.
I understand.
Okay.
Too.
Yes. One thing that's so cool about the Ultimate Freedom Program and the teachings is that you discovered a hidden block that isn't tied to subconscious beliefs or karma or typical spiritual teachings. So how did you come to understand this block, and what advice would you give to someone who feels like stuck or foggy, or they have so much cloud cover, but they don't know what's holding them back?
I don't take any credit for this. I didn't do anything. It was just all part of this work with the inner teacher knocking out cloud cover that I saw that this block, which is generally I call the cloud cover, and then there are specific things that I teach, especially in Ultimate Freedom. I was just shown this through my experiences, through the inner teacher. It isn't because I'm smart or because I did anything. I feel like saying it's pretty accurate to say these things were shown to me.
Mm-hmm.
But they were shown to me in an experiential way where I knew it was true. It wasn't just an idea. What advice would I give? To me, the only way through this, using my metaphor, is to take a journey into truth where you knock out cloud cover. That's the only way through any of this kind of stuff. And again, there's an infinite number of ways that can be done, including stuff that I offer. But that ultimately is what it takes. You have to take a journey, even if you don't know it's a journey. Some people, they don't. Like if somebody who comes to a live Ultimate Freedom event I do, where they go through the online experience, that's a structured journey. It starts here, it ends there. It was created for you. It's a structured thing. And I can say, take the Ultimate Freedom journey. Some people, it's not like that. Their life is just a journey. And TCE is doing the same kinds of things without there being an official program or a teacher or a coach or whatever. But it ultimately requires, number one, it has to be TCE's intent from behind the scenes to knock out cloud cover for you.
Right.
And then things have to happen so that it happens at an experiential level, because it just doesn't work to understand this stuff. To be able to get an A on a test has no value with this kind of stuff. You have to experience the truth for yourself. And as I said before, something has to reach deeply inside you and make a change so that you're different. You can't do it, as I have been saying and as I've experienced it, but that has to happen, and it's TCE that does that. But that's the answer. So then somebody can say, well, all right, Robert, I understand. So how do I know what journey I should take?
Right. What do I do?
Yeah, and I understand. And then again, the answer to me is real simple. I've said it a bunch of times. Wait. See what happens. If it's part of your story to take a journey like this and have it change you in the ways that we've been talking about, then it'll happen. And it might happen next week, and it might happen 3 years from now, and it might happen 20 years from now. And it might involve, it doesn't need to be me, but it might involve a teacher, a coach, a book, or whatever. It may just be stuff that happens in your life, an inner teacher kind of thing, like I talked about. You don't have to worry about it. You don't have to go looking for it. You don't have to try to find it. If it's part of your story, it'll find you.
It will.
And the journey will start, and you'll go through it, and you'll come out the other end, and you'll be different. But you don't have to figure it out. You don't have to make it happen, and you can't speed it up. You can't shortcut it. You don't have to worry about it. And if there are thoughts, well, shit, what he's talking about, it sounds really appealing, and I'd like to take a journey like that, and I'd like to knock out the cloud cover, and I'd like to play in the sunshine, and I'd like to start it now. Well, just because that's the thought that's appearing doesn't mean anything. This is another thing, my opinion of stuff, which is coming from what I call the mind machine that's been built as Robert grew up, its opinion on stuff doesn't mean anything. More often than not, it's noise.
Yeah.
And it's bullshit, and it's not accurate, and it's distorted, but you don't have to worry about it. And I know that's hard, and it's different for me because this is not how it happened to me, right?
Right.
What happened to me is I was living my life, and all of a sudden, whammo, something happened, and this inner teacher appeared, and I started having these crazy experiences, and this journey started, and I noticed it was changing me, all the things. I didn't go looking for it. I mean, deep down, I wanted it, and I didn't sign up for someone's program that started it, so the way it happened to me was different. It's different when somebody like me or anybody says, here's another possibility for you, and then you start wanting it, and then, well, how am I going to do it? That's not what happened to me. It just happened one day. But the answer is the same.
Yeah.
And to me, it's not hard. Wait and see what happens, If that's part of your story, then it's going to happen somehow, sometime, and live your life, do what you do. You can keep in mind that you'd really love to have this happen if you want. You can go looking for it if you want. If you do, that was part of what TCE wrote, but it's an easy way to live, but it's hard in the beginning, can be.
Yeah.
It's easy for me now. It would not have been easy for me 20 years ago. Somebody said to me, oh, Robert, just, trust in TCE and wait and see what happens. I would not have been able to deal with that. I still would have tried to make stuff happen, pushing it, with trying to do stuff.
Well, people have this fear. They're so used to, this idea of scarcity, or if I just wait and nothing happens, what if I go broke? But what they're forgetting is, earlier we talked about, you will feel motivated and inspired at some point to take action, or your intuition will push you if you're supposed to do something. But the way
Well, and also, how many times have you heard stories of somebody who became very successful, very famous, a celebrity, or they became a writer, speaker, teacher, and they learned something and they're sharing it, where they talk about how many times they went broke along the way.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I went into serious debt, huge debt, 3 times on my journey, even after the busting loose stuff happened.
Mm-hmm.
That was supportive to the story.
Yeah.
And at that point, like I've been saying to you, my perception of it was different. My perception of it was, I knew this might not have been true, but my perception of it was TCE created the debt. TCE knows better than I how to pay it off. I'm going to wait and see what happens. I trust that TCE is going to find a way to pay it off, and somehow this was supportive to me, and that's what always happened, including in some crazy ways. That a huge debt vanished, in a relatively short period of time. It's all just raw material for stories.
Yeah.
That's what this whole human experience is about, and everything that happens, and it's all about the experiences along the way and how it's perceived when you look back. As I mentioned before, it's not about what you happen to think in the middle of it. But again, if you told me that when the cloud cover was fully in place, I wouldn't have been able to accept it, and I would have continued to struggle, suffer, and do things the way that I had been taught, and banging my head against a wall. Now it's easy for me to say because that shift has taken place.
I feel like this is going to be one of those episodes that people come back to again and again as they prepare and keep getting ready and keep getting ready.
Well, that would be fun.
Mm-hmm.
That would be fun.
That would be fun. So a lot of people teach that when we get triggered by things that happen to us, it's an opportunity for growth. So will you explain how you see that? Because when I talk about it from a mindfulness perspective, it's an opportunity to be present. How do you see it?
Well, everything to me gets filtered through phase 1, phase 2, or phase 3. In phase 1, if you get triggered, there's really not much you can do about it. Or if you have a particular kind of a trigger and you get some help and you get rid of that, something else will trigger you, because phase 1 is about opposite of the big truth, which means being unhappy and being triggered by forces that appear to be beyond your control, and there's not that much you can do about it. And I no longer teach in phase 1, so I wouldn't say anything if someone in phase 1 came up and asked me about that. If you're in phase 2, where the game has changed and it's about knocking out cloud cover, then it's an opportunity. Now, to me, it's not an opportunity for growth.
Mm-hmm.
I don't believe in growth anymore. Something can happen that appears to be growth. Somebody could listen to my story and the change from phase 1 to phase 2 to phase 3 and where I live now, and they can say, well, that's spiritual growth. I don't look at it that way. I just, it is what it is. I changed. Is it growth? I wouldn't use that word, but if somebody does, that's fine. So to me, it would be raw material that would support you in knocking out cloud cover. And if somebody was embracing what's in the Busting Loose book, then every time you get triggered, the opportunity you'd have is to use the tool in that book that's called the process to help you drill through the cloud cover, not just suffer. So it would be used in a different way. In phase 3, it would be what we talked about before. Okay. A voice just appeared in inner space and said this, a video just appeared, a thought you would just appeared, and so what, who cares, on with life, I'm aware of it, I heard you voice. Yeah. But no struggle, suffering, pain, or impact, you just be aware of it and then on with your life. And the same thing if an emotion appeared, because in phase 3, and this gets into ultimate freedom stuff and the new stuff I'm doing, and we don't have time to go into it, but I've used the movie metaphor a lot. When you go to a movie, like the greatest example of this is the movie Avatar, the first one?
Yeah.
That's the biggest grossing movie of all time, which means people loved it. In that 3 hours, you feel pretty much every emotion that a human can feel, including a lot of so-called negative emotions, anger, fear, frustration, disgust, sadness, right? But when you're in the movie for 3 hours with emotions, you just feel, 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 feel. You don't say, oh, I'm angry now. Oh, now I feel happy. Now I'm frustrated. Now I'm sad. Now I'm happy again. Your mind does not give any of your emotions names or positive, negative judgments. You just feel. And you love that. I mean, my argument is that's what humans love most, is feeling pure emotion without names and judgments. So you just feel, 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 including so-called negative emotions. And at the end of the movie, it all blends together and you say, oh my God, that was a fantastic movie, even though you experienced all these negative emotions, a lot in that movie. This was one of the breakthroughs that I had, is that I saw that and I thought, how can that possibly be? Because anytime I feel any of those emotions in my life, I hate it. And I suffer and I want to do something to try to stop it or make it go away or feel better, you know? And I thought to myself, how can that possibly be? How can I sit in a movie theater and enjoy feeling the negative emotions that I hate and try to get away from in my private life? And so in phase 3, you get triggered and there's an emotion moving. You just experience the pure energy of the emotion, but there isn't any name, there isn't any judgment, there isn't any this feels bad or good. You just feel like you're doing a movie and that's it. So triggering means different things in phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3. And in my world, it's experienced differently in the 3 different phases. In phase 1, pretty much you just suffer and until it stops. And there's all kinds of things that people offer, techniques and stuff, and some of them appear to work and some of them don't. None of them, to me, eliminate the problem completely, because that's not what phase 1 is about. In phase 2, there's an opportunity, which you were kind of pointing at, of using it as raw material to, in my language, knock out cloud cover. And in phase 3, it isn't any big deal. You just experience it and it's not a problem. And if something needs to change, TCE will change it if it's part of your story. I mean, that's how I see that kind of stuff. And my advice, again, the only advice I can give you is what I've said before. The only way out of that, being triggered into struggle, suffering, and pain, stress, negativity, whatever, is to take a journey that knocks out cloud cover, transforms you at a very deep level, permanent shift. That's the only way out. There is no technique that I've ever seen that works reliably and consistently for everybody, that if something happens and you're feeling bad, you can use this technique and you instantly feel good. There are some things that help and they make it less, or they work sometimes. So imagine there was a technique like that.
Okay.
There's a magic button. And every time you feel bad, you can push the button and then you'll feel better. So guess what? In phase 1, here's what you'd be doing all day, every day. Even if it worked.
Yeah.
But there isn't anything that works like that. But even if it did, that's what you'd have to do. That doesn't solve the problem. That's not what anybody wants.
No, and it's exhausting.
Yeah. What do people want? Not to have it come up at all, right?
Yeah.
Or, in my language, for it to come up and not cause suffering, like what happens in movies. So the magic bullet, the technique, the practice, the whatever, doesn't solve the core problem. This is what this new project that I'm doing, and it's part of it's an ultimate freedom, is designed to do. It's designed to eliminate negativity at its true core, so that anything can happen in your life and it doesn't trigger negativity. That's the only solution, and the only way that happens is knocking out cloud cover. You can't do it with techniques or repetitive practices, or every time you feel bad, do this. It doesn't work. And again, even if it did, you'd have to do it all day, every day, which ultimately nobody would choose. If I remember I said, you can have a drink in phase 3 instantly, or you can take a journey, what would people choose?
Right.
If I said to people, look, you got stuff that happens and it triggers you, right? Door number 1, I give you a magic button, and every time you feel bad, you got to push the button. And since stuff triggers you all day, every day, you're having to do this every day. Door number 2 is a shift gets created inside of you so that the negativity, the struggle, suffering, and pain never comes up no matter what happens. Which would you choose?
Between
Nobody would choose this.
Right, because that's Groundhog Day right there.
And this is phase one.
Mm-hmm.
And there's 20 zillion, again, no disrespect. There's 20 zillion books out there that tell you do this when you're feeling bad.
Yeah.
To feel better. Or people do things like drink or take drugs or workaholic or shop or whatever it is to try to deal with it. None of it works. You have to get to the root of it, which means you have to knock out the cloud cover and experience the sun, which is the truth of it. And it creates a transformation such that anything can happen and you never get triggered again. Or, the same thought can appear that you call triggered, that the same energy can appear of emotion, but it doesn't cause any suffering. Because, this is a really weird thing. Everybody, there's a whole genre of movies that's called horror movies.
Yeah, I don't
right?
like them. I don't want to be that upset all the time.
I know, but millions of people love them.
They do. It's one of the highest grossing genres there is.
For 2 hours, all you do is feel fear and anxiety. And then at the end of it, people go, that was great. Well, if fear and anxiety were really so bad and were really so negative, how could that possibly happen?
I don't know.
But there's an answer to that. And and that's not a technique.
Right.
Nobody goes to a horror movie, feels bad, and then does something they just don't experience those emotions as being bad. They experience them as being welcome and enjoyable.
Well, it's a dopamine hit too in your brain.
Well, that's the science, but I like to keep it simple, as you know. So that happens all day long. It happens when we watch sports.
Right. I also don't.
It happens when we read novels. It happens when you watch TV shows. It happens when you go on roller coasters.
Yeah, I don't go on roller coasters. But I do love suspense in a great television show and in a movie. But I'll like stand up and I'll yell and I have to apologize.
I know, but even if it's not a horror movie, there's still plenty of TV shows and novels and movies that have scary scenes.
Oh yeah, not even.
And you feel afraid and you feel anxiety, but you don't suffer and you don't call it that and you don't try to make it stop, and it's not a problem. You actually enjoy it.
Right. I watch the next episode and I watch the next season.
Yeah. We don't think about this and nobody teaches us this, but this is the way my journey has been,
Yeah.
I was suffering and suffering and suffering. And then I went to the first Avatar movie and I saw what was happening. And what appeared in my mind is, wait a minute. I was just telling somebody that I've been feeling like shit lately, And I've been feeling sad and I've been feeling worried and I've been feeling anxious about these things and thinking that was really bad and trying to find a way to solve it, change it, get rid of it. And here I am. I just sat for 3 hours and felt all of that stuff and I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
How can that possibly be? These are the kinds of things that happen to me. And then in my case, the inner teacher would show up and would show me things and would make changes. And then I would notice all the kind of stuff we've been talking about. But that's kind of how it happened. I'm living my life and all of a sudden, wham, something happens. And I notice it, right? And then I get curious. How can that possibly be? How can I enjoy these emotions in movies, TV shows, sports, novels, rides that I hate and resist and fight and try to get rid of and judge in my private life? How can that possibly be? And if I can enjoy them in a movie and in these other things, how can I make a change in my life so that I can enjoy them in my life too? And it's the same thing. I didn't know how to do that, but that's how the journey started. And then the journey continued and this change took place so that I was experiencing emotions the same way. And that's what this whole new program that I call the True Happiness Experience is all about. And it's in the Ultimate Freedom Experience, part of it.
That is so cool.
But this is what my life has been like,
Yeah.
And then I think to myself, how come I never saw this before? And I don't say this in an ego way. This is just my observation. There's 20 zillion books out there about happiness and stress relief and everything. I've never seen anybody anywhere talk about that.
Mm-hmm.
I seem to be the only one who's talking about that. And I don't know why that is, because it's so obvious. But I didn't notice it.
Right.
I've seen millions of movies where that happened, and I never went, wait a minute, what just happened? And like I've narrated with Evan, I never thought about it. But then TCE did something different. And I noticed it. And then it dominoes, ripples, whatever. And it led me to a place where everything changed.
Well, and that's
And then it was a new teaching.
an inspiring thought, because so many people and creatives and writers think, oh, well, this might already be out there, or someone else already taught this topic or whatever, but they're not you. They're not teaching it the way you are. They don't have whatever it is that is coming through you. And that wasn't the plan for that. So just do it. Just write the damn thing if you feel motivated and inspired to do it. So I'm glad that you're doing it. It's exciting.
Well, this comes back again to one of the key things we've been talking about. If you write a book, create a seminar, whatever else it is along the lines of what you just said, and you offer it to the world, who is going to decide what happens with it?
Creative energy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that decision will include all kinds of practical logistics.
Yeah.
Did I make Busting Loose a big successful book all over the world? No. It happened.
Mm-hmm.
Who did it?
Mm-hmm.
TCE did it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Earthbound, lots of people read the book and they loved it and they told their friends, it was a classic thing, and it got attention and there was word of mouth. I mean, that was the Earthbound logistic of how it happened, but I didn't do any of it and it might have flopped.
Yeah.
My 5th book did flop. I mean, it was the least successful of all of my books, even though I thought it was the most important. So, and TCE can do anything with anyone.
That's true.
So it's another reason it doesn't matter if like you said, if a bunch of other people are teaching, and it doesn't matter even that you might teach it differently,
Mm-hmm.
or your energy would be different. Even if everything was exactly the same, TCE could still make it very successful.
That's true.
And the truth is what you said. Everybody's energy is different, and the examples that they use are different unless they were trained, to use the same example as part of a training system.
Mm-hmm.
And even in then, everybody's different. So everybody presents it different and they tell different stories and they'll appeal to different people. There's a lot of people that love my style of teaching and there are a lot of people that don't.
Yeah.
And somebody could take the same teaching and present it in a different way and be more effective.
Well, more effective for those people that are hearing that, and the people who are hearing your stuff, it's more effective for them.
Yeah, but the good news about all of this is what we've been talking about. You don't have to worry about any of this. It's TCE's job to worry about all this stuff and figure it all out and make it happen and make the connections in the invisible world that lead to things happening in the visible world that lead to what we actually experience. And if I told you that I had this moment where I'd made these discoveries and I said, all right, well, this really helped me when nothing else did. And so I'm going to share this because I hope it'll help other people when nothing else helped them. And the way I am, I was open to the fact that it might be successful and it might not.
Mm-hmm.
It turned out that it was successful. If I had published Busting Loose and the book had failed and nobody was interested in finding out more, I don't know what would have happened in my life differently, but my life would have moved on.
Right.
There was that moment where what appeared is, this is important. I want to share this in case it helps people. So I did. And the experience of doing that was fun. And again, everything is about the experiences. It's not about where it leads. It's about the experiences. And if it leads somewhere, then that's other experiences. It just doesn't matter, and you don't have to worry about it. You just do what you do, and where it goes, and there's another force that's driving the bus. Again, it just makes everything so simple and easy.
Mm.
And I'm biased at this point because this shift has taken place in me, but I also lived and breathed for 40 years the old way.
Right.
So I understand it, and I remember. And these are seed plants or invitations for people to consider wanting to start a journey like this because of where it can lead. If you could have been inside the Robert character, 0 to 40,
Mm-hmm.
you would not have wanted to be there. You would have, if you could have gone inside me and had my thoughts and feelings and stuff, you would have said, get me the hell out of here,
I mean, I think that's fair for most people.
Yeah.
Really.
Now,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
it would be fascinating. But you don't have to worry about all of it. You don't have to figure it out. It's not up to you. It's not on your shoulders. And it'll take care of itself. And it takes care of itself more easily, and whatever you want to call it, in ways we've been talking about. When you take a journey like this, you knock out cloud cover and sun starts to shine, because all of these goodies are what's in the sunshine. I don't have anything to show you, but why to me this metaphor is so effective is because I can say to you, it's 7 o'clock at night and it's dark, right? Did the sun disappear?
No.
Is it still there in space where it's always been?
Yes.
What happened?
It's in Australia. No, I'm kidding.
It's
Right,
blocked
Earth
from
is-
your view and
Earth is
experience, but it didn't
rotating.
go anywhere.
Right. The Earth is rotating. We just can't see it from this perspective.
Or if you're on a beach
Mm-hmm.
and the sun is out and you're feeling it on your skin, and then all of a sudden a very dense level of cloud cover comes in, you can feel that it gets colder and you can see that it gets darker. Well, has the sun gone anywhere?
No, it's still there.
And what's going to happen the minute the clouds move again?
The sun appears.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So in phase one, this cloud cover is built with all these lies, illusions, and stories, and it obscures the sun, but the sun doesn't go anywhere. It didn't disappear. It's not gone. It's just blocked.
Mm-hmm.
And when you start to poke holes in it, what has to happen?
The sun peeks through.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it lights up something that it shines on as it peeks through the solid, dense cloud cover, and it changes what the experience is. So it's a great metaphor. I didn't come up with it. Who gave it to me?
TCE.
And it just popped one day, you
Oh
know,
my gosh. Well,
like everything else that I do.
as we wrap up, one final question for you, Robert. You've talked about living a life that is fun and easy and feels rich and fulfilling. So what does it take for someone to open the door to that life, especially in challenging times like these?
Well, there are people in phase one with everything, the cloud cover in place and everything we've talked about, that they still have a lot of fun and their life is relatively easy. You know, I mean, there are people that experience that even in phase one, but that's unusual.
Mm-hmm.
Most people in phase one, there's a lot of struggle, suffering, and pain and blocks, and they don't get what they want, and they're frustrated, and they're constantly trying to change, fix, and improve things.
Right.
The only true way through it into the ease and the fun and the joy is knocking out cloud cover. To me, and obviously I'm biased because of my journey and how verified it's all been from my experience, the truth of it all, but that's the only way out.
Mm-hmm.
If the cloud cover remains in place, those things will continue to happen. It doesn't matter what technique you do. It doesn't matter what therapy you do. TCE can make exceptions to anything. But talking about a general rule of what happens for most people, the only way through is you end up taking a journey, whatever it looks like, however it happens, that reaches into you at a deep level and makes a change, which is knocking out cloud cover, exchanging lies, illusions, and stories for a direct experience and knowing of the truth. That's the only way out, as I see it.
You know, the mind wants to just keep asking how, and is the first part just deciding? Now, I already anticipate TCE will decide. So,
Well, did I decide
well,
what I narrated to you?
you did say that you wanted to, I'm going to paraphrase, but like eliminate suffering, or you wanted to have a better, easier life. You did make a decision about that.
I went outside and I begged for help or death.
There it is, right? So there's
Nothing happened for 8 months.
mm-hmm. Yeah.
Why did TCE wait 8 months and then bring this inner teacher in and start it? I don't know.
Yeah.
But I wasn't expecting it at that point. You know, at that point, I figured, all right, well, I begged for help and death and I didn't get either. And it was fuck you again.
Yeah. So
I wasn't hoping anymore. You know, at 8 months, it seemed like my request had been ignored.
yeah.
So can there be what appears to be a decision point? Sure, if that's what TCE writes.
Mm-hmm.
Again, it's so insidious
Yeah, I get that.
that you have to take action and you have to make it happen and you have to whatever you want to call it, set an intention, decide, open the door, express openness, ask for help.
Yeah.
It's so insidious that you have to do that and that ultimately you have to make it happen. And it just isn't true. The good news is, too, there are people like this yoga instructor I told you about, or like Buddha, for example. He was sitting under a tree and one day, whammo,
Yep.
right? Ultimately, he developed a teaching that he started to share, but he didn't have a system that he followed. It just happened to him.
Mm-hmm.
That could have been my story, and I could sit here and talk to you and say, well, all of this is possible and blah, blah, blah. And somebody can say, well, how could I do it? And I would have to say, I don't know. But in my case, and it may not be anybody's path, but in my case, there are two things that are available that can help you with this. One is the Busting Loose book.
Mm-hmm.
The other is the Ultimate Freedom Experience, and as it relates to emotion. So there is something that you can do, or something else may pop in that has absolutely nothing to do with me.
Yes. And
But there is at least a choice. There's an option here of something that helped me and has helped a lot of people all over the world. It's not like, go get him, tiger.
yeah.
And I gave you nothing, So there is an option. Whether anybody takes it or not doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the good news.
That's great news.
And there may be another way for you, or this may not be your path, or this may not be part of your story for another 10 years. I mean, again, my big breakthrough came around 50.
Right.
That's not any kind of rule or formula.
No. And again, like you said, how wonderful would that be, right? How wonderful would it be to have that breakthrough at 50? And it would be wonderful to have it at 80. So.
And I couldn't tell the same stories.
Mm-hmm.
And I couldn't teach the same way if it had happened when I was 20.
Right.
I mean, I had years of, I just call it beating my head against a wall and trying this stuff that I ultimately realized wasn't true and didn't work. But, you can go endlessly down the rabbit hole of the phase 1 self-help teachings. And you can embrace these techniques and they don't work. And then you go somewhere and you say, well, why didn't this work for me? And they'll say, oh, well, the problem is this, and you need to go do this, so you go do that. Right. And then that doesn't work. And then you go to somebody and say, well, it's not working for me. And they'll say, well, here's the problem. You need to do that. I mean, I spent decades doing that. It never ends. But you just have to, again, wait and see. This may or may not be your path. It may or may not be your path now. It may be your path. It may be your path now. And you're meant to receive my support. And it may be that this is your path and now or soon, but TCE is going to pop something else into your story to help you do this. But to me, it's important to realize that's what it takes. There needs to be a journey that over time changes you, reaches into you, and makes permanent changes that then ripple up to create all these other things. The other way of, again, the techniques it just doesn't work. It doesn't work for anybody.
Well, there it is. And for everyone watching and listening, the link will be for Busting Loose is down in the description, and Robert's website and the Ultimate Freedom Experience online is also in the website. And I am halfway through it. I'm very excited to complete it. I know I don't need to commit or decide, but damn it, I've done it. So I'm ready. Universe, TCE, God, Spirit, all there is. I'm ready. So thank you, darling, for your time, your brilliance.
My pleasure. Thanks for the opportunity.
And your light. Oh, my goodness. Yes. I hope we get to do it again. And yeah, we'll be in touch.
Okay. Bye-bye for now.
Bye for now. To connect with me or my guests, visit thebrilliancemethod.com or check out the episode description on the platform. I'd love to hear how this episode inspired and motivated you, so be sure to leave a comment, 5 stars, and don't forget to follow or subscribe.